Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. During my internship in Nebraska, the pastor and my supervisor left for another congregation, and an interim pastor was assigned for those churches and to supervise me. My new supervisor was a retired military chaplain who had traveled all over the world. What was perhaps most interesting was that as retired military, he could fly anywhere in the world on military planes on a standby basis. If they had room on the plane, he could go, and his wife could go for $10. Now, if you had that ability and freedom, where would you go? Here's what he did. He and his wife would simply pick a country somewhere, fly in, find a mission congregation, and tell the pastor, "You take some time off. Go on vacation. We'll handle things here until you get back." What a gift that must have been to those beleaguered missionaries. This week we are looking at folks the church commemorates during February, and we remember these people because they serve as examples to us of how to live our own faith. Maybe you can understand the gift my friend gave to those missionaries when you learn about Bartholomaus Ziegenbalg. Bartholomaus Ziegenbalg was born in Saxony, June 10th, 1682, the son of poor devout parents. As a child, he showed great ability in schoolwork and music. He studied music at a university which at that time was the center of the pietistic movement in the Lutheran Church. In 1705, Ziegenbalg responded to the call of King Frederick IV of Denmark to take the gospel to India. On July 9th, 1706, Ziegenbalg and his associate landed on the southeast coast of India in a region called Tamil, the first Protestant missionaries in that country. Despite the hostility of the local Danish authorities, as well as the Hindu religious leaders, Ziegenbalg carried on his work, baptizing their first converts on May 12, 1707. In 1712, a printing press was set up, and Ziegenbalg published important studies on the Tamil language and wrote extensively on Indian religion and culture. Several of his manuscripts were never printed. His translation of the New Testament into Tamil in 1715 was revised by a successor and is still in use. The Church of the New Jerusalem, built and dedicated by Ziegenbalg and his associate in 1718, is also still used today. During his brief lifetime, he died when he was 36. Ziegenbalg had to endure poor health, lack of support from the church, opposition to civil authorities, and many misfortunes. The Copenhagen Mission Society, with the admirable goal of not making the new church and transplanted form of the European Christians, wanted its missionaries simply to preach the gospel and not to involve themselves in other matters. Ziegenbalg insisted, however, that the care of souls also implies a concern for the physical and mental welfare of the people, and that such service is implicit in the preaching of the gospel. The low point of Ziegenbalg's life was a period of 4 months between 1708 and 1709, spent in a stifling prison cell on the charge that he was converting the Indians he was stirring up to rebellion. The last 3 years of his life, however, were full of joy. His marriage in 1716, the arrival of a new and friendly governor, the publication of his New Testament, and the founding of a seminary to train native clergy. His cooperation with the Anglican Society for the Propagation of Christian Knowledge was one of the first ecumenical adventures in the world. Ziegenbalg died in Madras on February 23, 1719, leaving as his monument a Tamil dictionary and grammar, Tamil translations of the New Testament and the Old Testament as far as Ruth, some 32 tracts on Christian doctrine and duties, 2 church buildings, the seminary, and a community of 250 baptized Christians. The work of the Ziegenbalg mission later declined. It was in part taken over by the Anglican missionaries, but it was the inspiration for missionary efforts elsewhere in the world, and it led indirectly to the flourishing Tamil-speaking Lutheran churches today. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.